My name is Gil Gonzales. I'm the CIO here at UNM, and this is a panel presentation regarding research in New Mexico. And to my left, I have Dr. Julie Fulgrim, who is our Vice President for Research. Today's panel presentation is really about a short discussion about research in general and how IT organizations can be better aligned or be supportive of, again, the changing dynamics of research as it is in the context of cyber infrastructure. Cyber infrastructure, as you're hearing through our presentations throughout the day, ranges from getting access to existing systems that are nationally funded and nationally managed, such as the TerraGrid, to local solutions that may benefit faculty and staff within organizations within the state. We heard presentations about open ID initiatives and others. So cyber infrastructure ranges in many ways across many business units within our organizations. But the most important thing about cyber infrastructure is we're discussing the needs of researchers not only to initiate their work, but also have long-enduring services so they can build capacity over long term to support not only themselves, but their students and others.
When you have a capital campaign for fundraising, you have what's called a quiet, silent phase and then a public phase. And in many ways, today is the public phase of an effort Gil and I have agreed upon to try and find new ways that research and IT can collaborate to really meet the needs of the faculty and PIs on campus. It's a very different approach. It's not something that you all trust, but really we want to find some ways to work together to meet the needs of this university as the flagship research university and to support research needs in the state of New Mexico, which is one of our roles as the flagship research university. Gil asked me to start out with sort of a high-level research overview, and everything I was going to say is high-level because everyone in the room knows more about some of the cyber infrastructure stuff than I do. So in terms of main campus research, a few things you may not know. We currently have over 385 million awards under management. This means we've got over 1,060 active research awards and over 400 funded PIs for main campus. Last year, our research expenditures were about 113 million, and that's about a 16% increase over FY07. All the major research colleges had increases, and we're on track to exceed FY09 this year, assuming some of you in the room spend your money. Awards are up, expenditures are not up nearly as much as awards. We had a lot of success with stimulus funding. We had almost 160 proposals totaling 100 million submitted, and we've had 46 funded for over 22 million. So about 30% of the stimulus proposals got funded. Some of the, for example, NIH competitions had less than a 2% funding rate. So as a campus, we did really well. And our latest success is an NIH construction proposal that's going to renovate space and psychology. We've had a group from the Legislative Finance Committee living on campus for about a month, looking at various aspects of the institution. And when I met with them, one of the things they wanted to talk about was, what are the tangible benefits of the state having a flagship research university? And we're providing a lot of information to them about that, and that's going to be an iterative process. But I've basically broken it down into three categories. Education. Integrating research and education provides our students with a state-of-the-art curriculum. They get to participate firsthand in knowledge generation. And that's one of the things we contribute to the state as the flagship, as well as they get real-world applications for what they're learning. Economic development. Federal research dollars have an economic multiplier of a factor of about 2. So just by bringing in the money, we are contributing to the economy. But of course, we create intellectual property, have spin-off companies, and we're training the highly skilled workforce that's going to be required. We have more and more renewable energy companies coming to not just New Mexico, but the Albuquerque area. And one of the reasons is many of them want to be associated with a big research university. We also contribute to New Mexico's quality of life, broadly speaking. Research transforms the community we live in. We have research in new medical diagnostics, disease prevention, clean energy solutions, and something that you may not think about, we contribute to the culture through the creation of art, music, and literature, which draws in tourism. Moving to thinking about research on campus, one of our most critical strengths is our interdisciplinary research. And my experience demonstrates the most successful and sustained interdisciplinary research efforts on campus come from having talented faculty with vision. I can't impose vision, I can't impose expertise, and I really can't impose passion for making things work. What I can do and what Gil can do is foster the really passionate, visionary faculty who have research ideas they want to implement. We also need faculty and students with expertise and an interest in the field. You need administrators that are willing to facilitate and mentor and negotiate and support and lead and plan for succession and help through all the roadblocks that come up, because you've got to change funding models and foci far more frequently than you think when you start out.
A grant is really not necessarily an attempt to secure funding. It's really a planning opportunity, a collaboration opportunity for the university. And if we seize that opportunity to do the planning thoughtfully as part of an application, that becomes oftentimes the foundation for the next series of major initiatives as we go forward. The need for a research network at UNM is derivative of an ARI proposal that actually helped us understand what some of the possibilities might be, and to begin to do some initial engineering and establish basically a discussion with faculty, which I thought was extremely useful. So we ought to use every opportunity through our normal university practice to use it strategically by engaging that cooperation, in which then that work is not repeated, it's not duplicative. We actually begin the process of executing some portions of those collaborations in everything that we do. 20 months ago, IT at UNM had almost no academic alignment whatsoever. And so part of what we are doing as an organization is not in terms of identifying new requests for resources, but in fact we are reallocating resources. So I think every good organization needs to realign, take the opportunity to realign its resources to its mission. So it isn't necessarily always asking for augmentation, it's not always necessarily supplanting other critical missions or core missions. And many of the things that IT organizations do in direct support, not only for research but administrative units, is very much basic connectivity, basic voice, etc. Needed, absolutely essential, but not necessarily aligned with the mission of a research university. So one of the challenges that we've attempted to engage in the last 20 months is to reposition IT to be a trusted partner with the researchers, to begin to look at the complex, and I want to emphasize this, complex and different types of needs researchers require as part of their daily lives. So what that means then isn't just necessarily work on campus, but this expanded vision of IT that includes very interesting places, basically locations where researchers want to do research or where faculty want to teach. So our view of the world from an IT perspective is no longer what's sitting on a property line sitting here in downtown Albuquerque. We now begin to think of IT support within our region. We're very interested, and we continue to be interested in working with researchers who need connectivity into California, into various places of New Mexico where remote sensing is a very important need that they have, and across the entire West in many cases, because oftentimes it's not the faculty within a discipline or within a department that need to work together alone, because they do. It's also faculty that need to work with their colleagues at other institutions around the country. So an IT infrastructure that supports the faculty and the research initiatives of the university has to fundamentally rethink its orientation to the problem it's solving. And it's the work with Julia that we're beginning to rethink New Mexico first, of course, because we want to be good citizens as well, but we're also thinking about how we support researchers from a national and international perspective. So the first thing is, yes, IT is one of the groups, because we have many IT organizations here at UNM that provides the basic connectivity to offices, basic connectivity to labs. We worry about things like email accounts and other things. But probably more importantly, we are beginning to rethink how we in fact realign our resources to make them more conducive, more responsive, more agile. In my opening comments today, I suggested that one of the most difficult challenges CIOs have is that we don't really have a good long-term plan for what researchers are going to do. By the way, we shouldn't. That's not the intent. Our goal is to be prepared to be responsive. So we build capacity in ways in which many of my other colleagues who are CIOs in manufacturing industries and others are about capacity planning to meet expected outcomes. We don't have that luxury. In fact, that's what makes this job interesting, frankly, to work with really smart people who are challenging and creating new knowledge all along the way. So the first thing is IT infrastructure has to begin a conceptual re-examination of what's important, how we think about the problems in front of us, and to build capacities in ways in which oftentimes a lot of folks who are looking at everything from cost containment to business continuity don't necessarily agree with us. So we have some new challenges in those areas. We realize also that it's not a UNM only initiative. It's very important for UNM IT to have strong, enduring relationships and collaborations with our colleagues at New Mexico Tech, at New Mexico State University, and other research institutions in the state. And we are better when we work together and coordinate our efforts, because we understand that oftentimes the coordination within the state can help us not only save money in some cases, but actually prepare the organization, prepare the states so we can bring together the resources necessary to execute. That's probably one of the most important characteristics of an IT organization that reaches outside of its own organizational bounds. We don't have to have command and control of everything. That will never happen. What we really need to do is build a strong, enduring relationships with our business colleagues so we can execute on a timely basis. Generically, clearly our academic units have stood up, I'll say, unique and very interesting programs around the creation of new media. And so the opportunities that exist not only to align our academic experiences with more current industry practices is useful, but I also think, and this is part of the reason why connectivity is so essential to us, is we believe that providing those connections to Los Angeles is an essential part of that solution. Having high bandwidth, low latency connections into the film studios in Los Angeles provide us with an opportunity to do several things. One is for economic development purposes, because it's a major initiative in the state, but also we think that programs like our IFDM program really helps us understand what the world's going to be next. And so in many ways, we're turning to academic programs to help show us the future, what the world will be like based on the type of technology needs we think we need. So I think there are several others that are related to that type of an application. Our concern oftentimes is characterized as part of a discussion we have with our College of Fine Arts about the execution of a connection into California is, well, if it's going to take us 16 months, if it's going to take us 2 years, I'm going to look elsewhere. We didn't have the ability to have an expedient response. So we're beginning the process that we've gone forward is to create the opportunity for those kinds of responses that are timely, appropriate to academic needs, and to cut that innovation cycle down. We really want to make sure that people have the resources they need to innovate on a timely basis. I would also begin to argue the case that it's not necessarily just the research universities. In the state of New Mexico, we have a tremendous opportunity to work with federal labs. The state has a unique idea about how supercomputing can support economic development. I would suggest that not many states have necessarily those types of initiatives, but we do have state government that is interested in those types of things. Universities not only need to be aligned with our normal colleagues, our other university colleagues, but also with state government and with federal labs as we go forward. Clearly, the federal labs bring intellectual capital to the state, they bring economic development to the state. They also bring the need for high capacity, low latency networking into the state. And because of the types of requirements they have throughout their organizations, universities like UNM and others can benefit from the capacity planning, design work, and the rebuilding of the infrastructure to support them. One of the projects UNM is engaged with as we speak is a rebuild of fiber throughout downtown Albuquerque, which of course the important question would be, why would a university ever care about fiber running through downtown cities? Well, part of our initial designs, we looked at the business problems of the university is we needed to have alternative paths for diverse connections so that our services never go down. We are arguing the case, being strong advocates for systems that in fact treat research projects as we would treat administrative systems so that they actually never fail. We always have duplicate connections. We have alternative physical paths to our buildings. We're working with our facility colleagues to make sure that whatever research capacity we build, it is entirely resilient. We identified a business need early on at UNM to support our colleagues in fine arts and others, where we needed to have low latency, high bandwidth connections into Los Angeles as part of a films project, both commercial and research. It was one of those things that we needed to cover both sides. Well, with that project, we've stood up 10 gig connections into Los Angeles directly so we can create private networks into Los Angeles, so that as our colleagues need to have direct connectivity into the CEDIC network, which is California's visual optical network, we have the ability to execute those on a very timely basis. We believe we were within weeks now of standing up dedicated VLAN connections into important places like University of California at Santa Barbara, University at UCLA and others. Our thinking is that we have to have that kind of on-demand capacity so that we can stand up demonstration work that could lead to long-term relationships with academic units. That's the kind of exercise that we're planning. We've also been working with our colleagues at the Pacific Northwest Gigapop in Seattle and the Front Range Gigapop in Denver to complete the loop. So by the end of the summer, we do expect to have a complete Western Ring built on the good work of our Internet 2 colleagues and National Lambda Rail colleagues that would allow us to have a 10 gig ring that would circle Albuquerque, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Denver. And that would allow us to do many things. And the most important thing we're able to do is to not have a failure point when we're working with any of the institutions on that ring. We are using this model for several things, and this is probably the most important part, is we're very interested in advocating for the diverse use of networks to support research as we argue the case with our national providers, National Lambda Rail as well as I2, to reconsider how they plan networks. And we've attempted to influence some of those over the last several months through our BTOP NTI applications. We think this is a long-term benefit for the West, not just for New Mexico alone. We are also beginning conversations with our colleagues regarding international connections into Mexico. Again,